Next, students, let's look at Kaizen. This is a Japanese term, Kai meaning change, and Zen actually means good, for the better. Change for the better or improvement is what Kaizen is all about. In business, Kaizen is actually referred to as continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. That was a philosophy. What is Kaizen? Kaizen is recognized worldwide as an important pillar of their long-term competitive strategy. It improves quality so much that the companies, that the organizations, competitiveness goes up, the competitive advantage goes up, and overall profitability goes up. It is a practice of continuous improvement. We call it the staircase of improvement. Little improvement, little improvement, little improvement. Over the years, over a period of time, the effect is huge. By whom, students? Is it by the management? Is it by the workers? Is it by the top level? No, it is by everybody, everywhere, every day. Continuous improvement. Accumulation of small improvements over time lead to high quality and low costs. However, the prerequisites of introducing Kaizen is first and foremost management commitment and involvement. Very important that the management is absolutely committed to this principle of Kaizen. They have to train their employees, have to be trained themselves. Everybody should have a mind towards continuous improvement. Documentation of the current process and standard. Very important to know what is the current process. Provides clarity. You know the parties who are impacted, so that whenever we make an improvement, whenever we suggest a change, we know the affected parties and they should all be consulted before we make the change or test for the change. Yes or no? Any change is discussed with all teams which are impacted. Also, in production, in manufacturing, safety regulations have to be met, and all this needs to be documented completely. Everything is written down so that we know there are measures, there is clarity in the process flow, and this helps us as we introduce our smaller improvements. Open-mindedness. When a suggestion is made, it might just disrupt our past thinking. So many things we have conditioned to think, so many things we take for granted, but it may so happen that suggestions would question existing methods and practices, and there should be open-mindedness to receive the same. Employee participation, essential right from the CEO to the shop floor assistant, and therefore for this to be successful, very important that there is no blame game. Nobody is judged, no blame game. It goes wrong, that's fine. We only learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are nothing but opportunities to learn. Mind you, students, when I talk of all this, I realize that Kaizen was not just used in industries, it is also used for personal development. Do you remember this, students? This I've just taken from our last module, from lean management, from supply chain management. If you remember, there is identifying. There were 5 principles that you first identify value from whose point of view? From the customer's point of view. How does the customer want? What does the customer want? That's what you do first. What are the flow of activities? What are the set of activities? Set of activities which are required to remove or to get this product to the customer. Non-value adding activities can be removed. Remember, we talked of the concept of value engineering, which we just covered. Yes or no? Value engineering. Then what is the smooth flow? There should be a proper flow, there should be no bottleneck, and we had gone through the concept of the theory of constraints, right? So we identified the value, what are the activities, what is the flow without bottleneck, or when there are bottlenecks, how we work around the particular bottleneck factor. And there was the pull. What was the pull? Pull factor production is based on customer demand. It's not that we will produce first and then push to sell. And we introduce perfection, which is what we are now discussing. We had said there should be continuous improvement, and we had just introduced this term of Kaizen, which is what we are now discussing. For instance, this term had been introduced to you in the last. What is the history of Kaizen, so to say? During World War II, very small steps, improvements were introduced because there was no money, there were no resources, there was hardly any time. So the steps, the small improvements, that idea had developed during that time. After World War II, a lot of American consultants were taken to Japan. They were given, they gave their lectures, they shared their thoughts and ideas, largely helped Japan build their economy, reconstruct their economy. One such person was Dr. Deming, an American engineer, scholar, professor, statistician. He spoke to, he trained, he talked to top managers and engineers in Japan. He taught them ways of working together, learning together, and his ideas actually form the basis of what we see as Kaizen today. His contribution to Japan's economy, to building of their industries, to their business community was so huge. Japan outpaced the West with its competitive advantage, with its quality, with its low cost. For this, he was rewarded, he was honored by the Emperor of Japan for the introduction and implementation of Kaizen in Japan. In fact, the Japanese Union, the Jews, they instituted an annual Deming prizes for achievement in quality. They are awards of quality of great repute internationally. But having worked in Japan, he came back. After Deming came back to the US, he continued with his own consulting. He was not so popular in the United States, and Kaizen as a term was not very popular in America till the 1980s. What happened in the 80s, we'll discuss later, but right now let us just understand what is Kaizen. The cycle of the Kaizen activity is defined as plan, do. I'll not say check, I will write this as study. Deming was very keen that it should be called study and not check, PDSA. It's also called the Shewhart cycle. Deming was credited with this, and this cycle is often called the Deming cycle, PDSA, but Deming himself throughout his life referred to it as the Shewhart cycle, saying that he had borrowed the idea from another statistician, Shewhart. Followed? Now, whatever be the name, by whatever name you call it, let us understand what are its principles. So what were the things they said? Plan, do, study, and act. So plan. First, identify the potential for improvement. Plan. What are the areas that we can improve upon? Look at the current situation and develop potential solutions. Then test the new concept at a single point, workstation, it's called a Gemba, and measure the results. So when you do, it is not that you have introduced the whole process, but you are actually do is nothing but you are testing your idea of improvement. Correct? Then what do? So there was an idea for improvement. You've tested it at a particular place, at a particular workstation. Now review. What is it you wanted to do? What was it you were going to achieve? Was it achieved? Measure the results, and decide whether it is worth implementing or not. If it is worth implementing, we will now act. How do we act? Introduce the change. Get all parties impacted on board. Document this change completely. completely. And this now becomes the new standard. So see, there is a standard we start with. We do the cycle of plan, do, check and act. Now we have implemented it. This is now the new standard. This is now we have moved from here to here, and this has become now the new standard. Followed? Again, improvement. You cannot sit back. Every day, if possible, we try to improve. Introduce small changes. Introduce improvements. Followed? So from here, this has become now the new standard. Clear? Staircase of improvement. So go on and move. We move like this, and therefore, over a period of time, the total impact is tremendous. Okay, the PDCA cycle, I will again say SA cycle, is repeated again and again for continuous improvement. He said this is a study. Let us not say it's a check. It's not an inspection. It is really a review, understanding what are the changes, how it is making an impact. Kaizen emphasizes on teamwork, absolutely essential. What they say is better that 10 people will take one step all the time than one person takes 10 steps at a time. Followed? Very, very keen that there is teamwork. As we mentioned before, everybody from CEO to the lowest level employee is engaged in the process of continuous improvement. Workers must be confident about offering suggestions. There is no rank among team members. Anybody can make a suggestion. Everybody is open-minded about the suggestion. If there are mistakes are made, not a problem. We only learn from the mistakes and move forward. Everybody's opinion is valued and considered, because we say creativity, mind you, may not depend on the level of education, may not depend on the designation. Some people have a totally different perspective, a different view, a different thought. All this comes together and helps to improve the organization as a whole. And remember, there is always room for improvement. You cannot sit back continuously. There is improvement. Shall we compare Kaizen versus, do you remember, business process engineering? Yes, it said BPR is a project with a definite beginning, definite end. Yes or no? We are doing re-engineering. The process, let us find out and do. Yes, but what about Kaizen? It's not like that. It is never ending. It is continuous. A BPR will have a team. When you are doing re-engineering, there will be a few consultants. There will be the top management. There will be functional heads. Yes or no? But in Kaizen, it involves every employee is on board as far as Kaizen is concerned. The changes under BPR are radical. They affect the entire integrated process. But in case of Kaizen, they are small changes and they affect the sub-process. Scope, of course, BPR may be a huge change, but the scope is defined. But in Kaizen, there is no such thing. Changes can be in any area. BPR is normally technology oriented and expensive, but Kaizen can even be free because we are talking of very small improvements. Changes may not be adopted after the consultant leaves. This is the saddest thing about BPR, because the change is so drastic. It's being made. Sometimes it just doesn't get implemented. But in case of Kaizen, they are small improvements. They involve people. There is a lot of participation. It is documented, and we ensure that the changes are implemented, because there is an acceptance. It becomes very easy to implement the changes. Voilà. Kaizen has so many benefits to it. Kaizen results in high employee morale and job satisfaction. This is one of the things Deming always insisted upon, that give the worker right to do his job. He should have job satisfaction. So this is the one of the Kaizen, because he is involved, he is participating, every employee is participating, the employee morale is high, and with a motivated team of employees, the organization is bound to move forward. Improved productivity, improved quality, improved safety measures. Yes or no? Reduction of waste. It can be applied in any industry. Like I said, not only in any industry, even for personal development. And the organization moves upward through sustained improvements. The message of Kaizen strategy is that not a day should go by without some kind of improvement being made somewhere in the company. This is what Masaki Imai said. Though the concept of Kaizen had actually been introduced by Deming in Japan and used, it was Masaki Imai who through his book coined the word of Kaizen, and it became popular in the West in the 80s, in the 1990s. So he was responsible for this term of Kaizen, and he also has established the Kaizen Institute in Japan. I just thought one of the quotes, there are many quotes, Deming's and Masaki's. But remember, what does he say? Every day somewhere in the company, some kind of improvement is going on. Next, let us take a look at Activity-Based Management, ABM. We did this. This is familiar, right, students? What we did was Activity-Based Costing. Do you remember? ABM describes management decisions which use ABC to satisfy customers, improve profitability. So what is ABC? It is a measure of the costs and performance of the activities, resources and cost outputs. You measure the cost. You allocate the overheads in a certain manner. And what does ABM do? Activity-based management. They look at the management of these activities so that you can improve value. Remember, improve value, increase the value to the customer and reduce costs, therefore increase profits. Yes or no? Do you remember? It's the same thing. So this is all about activity-based management. So ABC designates and uses cost drivers for each activity. And what does ABM do? They analyze the cost drivers. Yes or no? These are the cost drivers. What are these cost drivers? What is the effectiveness of the cost drivers? What are the root causes? What is actually driving activity costs? Okay. So adoption of ABC in a simple way is, yes, it is of course overheads, the correct apportionment of overheads, how the resources are being consumed by the different activities was studied under ABC. And what did it help us in? It helped us in understanding the better what should actually be taken as the cost of a product, and therefore it helped us in price fixing, in determining the product mix, etc. But greater than that, the greater benefits of the adoption of ABC is what are in the management, the cost management, not in providing accurate product costs. So ABM is a much broader concept than ABC. ABM is also a kind of strategic analysis aimed at yielding process improvements, resulting in competitive advantage. ABM includes decisions about product pricing, product mix, how to reduce costs, how to improve process, and how to improve product design. Okay, we did use activity-based cost to do this, but activity-based management really helps us to take this a level higher. Applications, cost reduction, it helps to identify non-value added activities. It helps us to identify controllables. See, when we are talking of overheads, they are normally fixed overheads. Now, if the overheads are actually completely fixed, there is nothing that we can do about it, right? Controllable fixed overheads leading to continuous improvement through continuous cost reduction. Activity-based budgeting helps compare the actual with budgeting activity costs. Analysis of variances ensure that corrective action is taken and costs are controlled. So you have cost reduction, you have activity-based budgeting. Because you've made activity-based budgeting, it becomes better. You've made budgets based on activities. Analysis becomes better. Business process reengineering. ABM with the help of ABC can help in value chain analysis and BPR to achieve dramatic improvement in performance and operational excellence. Business process reengineering. Also it helps because it is identifying activities. Do you remember value chain? All activities, you had primary activities, support activities, etc. So ABM with ABC can also help in business process reengineering. Benchmarking. ABM by comparing the firm's activities with other best performing operations helps in identifying areas of improvement. Benchmarking we shall go into detail a bit later. Performance measurement also. The performance of relevant activities can be measured with respect to cost, quality and innovation. For example, you ensure zero defects in the activity of purchasing components. These are the measures. What is your activity? Purchasing. What is your measure? There should be zero defects. Do you understand? Look into customer complaints to improve customer awareness, etc. ABM and quality improvements. An ABM system facilitates quality implementation by identifying activity costs, increasing the visibility of associated costs of quality, and providing quality cost measures. Identifying activity costs, increasing the visibility of cost of quality students. What is the cost of quality? Again, we'll discuss this a little later. And providing the measures. The activity of cost control, quality control. Who benefits most from activity-based management? The benefits of ABM and AC are greatest in the organizations that have high indirect costs. Manufacturing systems have become more IT-based. Labor costs have fallen. Overhead costs have increased. Yes or no? So where there are greater indirect costs, it's most useful. Organization with large variety of products because overheads have to be apportioned correctly. But the problem is that ABM is slightly inwardly focused and does not consider other factors like consumer demand. Yes or no? Limitations, if you say, all overheads may not be, overhead costs may not be what is called controllable. Some costs may remain fixed. In those cases, there will be no difference even if we identify activities. Of course, it cannot be used for financial reporting and it can be complex, expensive and time consuming. May not be cost effective for small businesses with few products.